welcome to another episode of Going All In, Get the Edge You Need to Succeed. I'm Dr. Erin McKinley, and today we have another awesome spotlight session with Melissa Maulding and current intern Sarah Vilt from the Eastern Illinois University Masters of Science in Nutrition and Dietetics and Dietetic Internship programs based in Charleston, Illinois. All right, welcome to the podcast, Melissa and Sarah. To get us started, give us some quick introductions to you.
Sure. First of all, thanks so much, Erin, for letting us join. And I'm Melissa Maulding. I'm the DI coordinator at Eastern Illinois University. And I have kind of a probably interesting story to how I became a dietitian. I was a registered dental hygienist first and decided I didn't want to have my hands in people's mouths for the rest of my life. So I really enjoyed the one nutrition course that I took as a result of that program of study. And I had my own struggles with nutrition and dietetics personally throughout my whole life. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to look into this dietetics thing. So I actually attended Eastern Illinois University as an undergrad and then attended grad school there. And I worked in a clinical setting for about a year, but I knew that that was not my gig. And landed at Purdue University in Indiana, working for Purdue Extension for the last 15 years with their SNAP Ed and FNET programs. And then, you know, as many times when we get to mid-career, sometimes there's a change. And I started to work on my PhD and was invited to interview for this position as a DI coordinator in the summer of 18. So that's how I came here.
Okay, my name is Sarah Vilt. I currently right now I'm a dietetic intern. Melissa will go through this PowerPoint and talk about the different internship sites. And the internship that I'm at right now is the Carle Foundation Hospital. I have about 7 weeks left, so I'm very excited that it's coming to a close. But a little bit of a background about me. I did my undergrad at a small college in my hometown. It's called Olivet Nazarene University. I had two professors that went to Eastern that talked highly about it. So I was very excited to apply. It sounded like they had a great program. So that's mainly why I applied to Eastern. But why I chose nutrition and dietetics is because the last 13 years I've had type 1 diabetes, and nutrition has always been a huge impact on my life. So I just wanted to give back to other individuals with diabetes as well, just to help them through. So that's probably why I chose nutrition and dietetics as my career.
All right. Well, I will let you give your presentation about your program.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we would be happy to talk to anyone more about EIU, of course, but I just wanted to give you kind of the 10,000 feet view here, give you some basic data. EIU is a coordinated graduate program. So you'll do 2 semesters of coursework in addition to about 9 months of an internship experience. And that makes our entire program length in the neighborhood of 18 to 24 months. The variation is dependent upon if you come in as a spring match or a fall match. So that's a little bit different. But ultimately, that's how we roll. You'll do 2 semesters first and then the internship following the 2 semesters. We have 9 internship sites, and that's actually building a bit right now. So by the time you come in, you might have more options. But at the moment, we have 9 internship sites, and we do something I think that's a bit unique, as I have observed other dietetic internships now in my few years of experience. We give you a home site. So instead of having you travel 2 weeks here, 3 weeks there, 4 weeks there, we give you a home in one of these 9 sites. And then we do have some periodic travel for rotations to give you a stronger experience, say in pediatrics and maternal health. If one of our units doesn't have a strong department in that area, we'll do what we call a rotation exchange with another site. Or if you have a specific interest area, we'll do some rotation out. But typically you're going to spend the vast majority of your experience in one of these sites. So that takes down your travel a little bit. Expenses for us here at EIU, you see the in-state and out-of-state costs associated with us. We're a pretty cost-effective program, I think, across the nation if we look at averages. We do have several of our students that end up with graduate assistantships, if that's an interest for you. We have 3 here in the department that we use as pre-select options with the match, but then there are also several across campus. I actually just recently talked to the graduate school and asked for a percentage. About 40% of our DI graduate students end up with a graduate assistantship, which is really nice because it pays for the vast majority of your experience, whether you're in or out of state. And then you're also awarded a 9-month stipend, which is $870 a month. And so just some examples of some of the work that folks are doing as GAs across campus. Here in the department, we have one who's teaching our Intro to Foods class. So she operates the lab and participates in other nutrition projects as needed here in the department. We have one who works with our athletic department to provide nutrition education. And we have another that works with the department in the Health Education Resource Center to provide education across campus to students. But then some of those other GAs that aren't necessarily in our department, they're working with the president's office, with the history department, with Booth Library, with printing services, with a variety of different places that are going to give you some experience for your resume in addition to covering the cost of tuition and providing you a stipend. So that's a pretty cool thing here at EIU. Some other things that you might put in the need to know category. We do match with about 25 students annually. That's our maximum number. We typically bring in somewhere between 16 and 18 in the fall, and then another 7 to 9 in the winter, depending upon the spring and fall match. We are a 33 credit hour graduate program. 12 of that is included as part of your DI experience. So you'll actually be doing the 21 credit hours of actual coursework. The remainder of those are your DI experience. So you're not doing 33 hours of coursework plus 12, you're doing 21 plus 12 for a total for your graduate degree. Our DI experience is the minimum 1,200 hours with a bit of flexibility right now with COVID. Most of my students are completing somewhere between 1,100 and 1,200 hours, even in the COVID situation, because we're trying to give them as much experience as possible. Our program focus is nutrition education. And if I could just pause there for 1 second, sometimes I think when students hear nutrition education, they think classroom. And so I want to provide a little more explanation for that. So when we say nutrition education is our focus, ultimately what we're saying is that we are training you to develop and deliver evidence-based nutrition communication and education. And so from my perspective, as a working in community for 15 years and having some clinical experience and knowing the sectors that are involved with registered dietitian work, I feel like this is a really good balanced focus for any sector that you tend to, that you're leaning toward. You're going to need to deliver evidence-based nutrition education, no matter if you're in a clinical setting, if you're working with athletic training, if you're working in public health, if you're working in any sector that we see RDNs working. So that's a little plug for us. I see that as a very applicable study, no matter where you end up. So one of the sort of perks, I think, for students of our program are 2 semesters of graduate M&T with clinical experience. So you have 2 semesters with Mrs. Gill, who teaches our M&T class. And so with that class, you have actual course time with her, but then you also, right now it's on Wednesday evenings, you go up to OSF at the hospital and you actually have experiences with clients, with patients. So it's sort of like pre-clinical rotations for 2 semesters to give you a little bit of experience, build your confidence working in the clinical setting prior to entering into your actual DI experience. So I think that's something that's attractive to students often. We do have an active SDA with robust professional networking opportunities as we build those classes or those meetings with SDA. And you also have opportunities, depending upon your interests, if you would like to engage in research or independent study to individualize your academic experience, you certainly can do that. Part of our program plan is 3 credit hours of electives that can be taken just as another course that you have interest in, or if you have an interest area in a thesis, for example, or an independent study that would be a research project that's not quite as intense as a thesis. Those are ways that you can individualize your program of study for us. Some FAQs in terms of just highlights, things that we're looking for. And I know we'll talk a little bit about this in the question section, but we tend to look for leadership skills, maturity, responsibility, experience that says I can follow through on a task or meet the expectations of an employer, those sort of things. If you have an interest in nutrition education and associated sectors, which as I said are about anything, your writing ability is something we look for in your application, and your attention to our assessment, which I have provided to Erin and we can talk about more, is basically just a rubric that we use to assess your application materials. We do consider GPA and DPD GPA. That's a question that I typically get from students, but it's not the most important thing to us. We are really looking for a well-rounded student. And it's sort of related, unrelated to that. We no longer require the GRE as a part of our application packet. So that's a cost that you don't have to assume for us. Typically, do we have interviews? Sometimes not. It depends on the applicant, depends on the pool. Another question that I regularly get, what do you think about distance DIs? I think come to EIU, then you don't have to find your preceptors. That's a benefit for us. And then what's it really like to be an intern at EIU? It's tough. I think it's tough anywhere because it's a big adjustment, but with humility and honesty with us, I can guarantee you that your faculty is committed to your success, and we will help you so long as you're ready to help yourself. So those are some pictures of us. That's our key NTR faculty, and we'd love to see you. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to have you be a Panther. So with that concludes my presentation, and I'll let Sarah talk a little bit about her experiences as an intern.
Sure. So there's just a couple things that I wanted to touch on in this PowerPoint. When Prof. Maulding said that she was looking for a well-rounded student, she really is. So a little bit about me. I was a well-rounded student. I did have good grades. I did not have a 4.0. But I also had a lot of leadership and extracurricular activities that I had done that I could put on my resume to show Prof. Maulding that I was a well-rounded student. I was really nervous because I did not have that 4.0, that I wasn't going to get matched. But after going to numerous open houses and meeting with Prof. Maulding numerous times, I knew what she was looking for in a student. And I was pretty confident that I had a really good chance at going to EIU because of all the different things that I had done in my undergrad that brought me to this point. Another thing I want to add is that Prof. Maulding is right when she says that the faculty really does want you to succeed. I tell this story to everybody. There was one time over the summer that I was having a really hard time uploading a PowerPoint to our online course. I was freaking out. I was stressing out. It was late. I ended up calling Prof. Maulding on her cell phone. It was like the middle of the day. She was super cool, calm, and collective about it. No big deal. She walked me through it. She knew I was working hard on it. So she wants me to succeed, and she wanted me to know that she was with me. So I was just really happy that I could lean on her when I was having that stressful time. Another thing that I really like about EIU is that the small classes that they have. So I came from a small undergrad where I had a great community of friends, and the professors were always there to help me. So I was worried that I was going to lose that little community that I had in my undergrad, but I was lucky to know that when I got to EIU, it was still a small community, and the professors really wanted me to succeed, and they want all of us to succeed. So I was just really grateful for that experience that I got at EIU. And then the last thing that I do want to touch on is how Prof. Maulding said that the internship can be tough, and she is correct. It is very tough. It's definitely a learning experience that we will all use in the future. It's especially something that you can grow from and you learn from as well. So just knowing that everybody goes through it, everybody feels the same way, I think is just something to think about when you're going through your internship, because you'll be surprised how much you do know when you get there.
All right. Thank you so much for your presentation and your overview and your insight as an intern. So I'm going to jump right into the 5 questions that I ask every program that comes on the podcast. And these questions were put together with the help of some of my students. So they're definitely things that students are interested in learning from different programs. So my first question is, what is one thing in particular that you just really love to see when you're reading an applicant's personal statement?
I think that's a great question for one, because it helps them prepare. But something that I really get excited to see is that there's evidence in your personal statement that you've taken the time to do a little investigation about our program. And you are aware enough that it makes it sound like you have interest and you have a good fit for us. There are times, unfortunately, that I get personal statements that have other universities listed or aspects that are clearly not associated with us that they have maybe, got from somewhere else. So I just love to see that someone's taken the time and individualized a personal statement that says, I actually know what your program is about and I'm interested in it.
All right. Well, my second question is a true or false question. So true or false, an applicant's resume should always be 1 page and 1 page only. Either way, why?
Actually, my answer is true and false. So oftentimes we have applicants that are maybe second career. And so in those sort of scenarios, I would say false, because if you have some excellent career experiences that you want to show us, then absolutely include that. And if it's more than 1 page, then perfectly fine. If you're a traditional student and maybe you don't have that, then I'm going to say probably true. I'm just not a hardcore yes or no on this. As a director of SNAP-Ed and FNEP for 15 years, I reviewed a ton of I experienced a ton of interviews. I reviewed a ton of resumes, and I tend to say individualize it for yourself, but make sure that whatever's on there, there's a reason for it. So if that means it needs to be 1 page, then by all means, let it be 1 page. And if you're a traditional student, that's probably 1 page.
All right. I like the true and false. I like let's really make it yours.
Yeah, pretty much.
It takes a little bit of the stress off some of the students.
Yeah.
All right. So what is one thing that an applicant may do, and this could be in the application itself or any interaction that you have with them prior to the application period or during or any other time, where you feel like something would raise a red flag for you, to where you're like, I don't really think this person's the best fit for our program?
Yeah. So I mentioned one thing, that if you give me a personal statement that says, I'm so interested in going to Saskatoon University, I'm so happy, then yeah, that's going to be a red flag because you haven't paid attention to the details. The other thing that I think we have talked about regularly as a selection committee is when we see the expression of a clearly unscientific view of nutrition. So we all know as RDNs that there's a ton of information out there, and it's our job as professionals and as scientists to discern what is evidence-based and what is not. So if I see evidence that you're not doing that well based on a particular position that you become very associated with, then that gives me a flag, because we're really committed in our graduate program to help you discern scientifically what is evidence-based and what is not, what you want to translate for the lay public and what you want to warn them of. That's one of our jobs as RDNs.
I think you may be one of the first to mention that, and that is a really good point, because I have met students that when they come into my program at an undergraduate level, they think they know everything, and when they start to talk to you about it, you're like, okay, you saw that on the internet. Cool.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
That was a great blog that you read. Yeah.
And some students they'll sit through the whole undergraduate experience and never make that connection that what they're so grounded in is incorrect. Yeah. And then they do accidentally say that to the wrong person, and it kind of, so thank you for mentioning that. We should always be reinforcing that with our applicants. All right. So what is one area of the program that you're working on trying to make even better of an experience for the interns?
So we have done an overall curriculum review just in the last about 6 months. So we're making some adjustments to some courses to be just more 2021. As a result of that, something that I'm really pretty excited about is something that we've added that Sarah unfortunately didn't get to participate in this particular portion of our internship, but we've added at the end of our rotations something called special interest weeks. So something that I get questions about and just perpetually, whether it's prospective students, or current interns, I really have an interest in this particular aspect of dietetics. How can I get more experience at that? So we try to encourage them in the coursework to build projects around that specific interest, but then in the internship, there's not been a whole lot of opportunity for that. So now I'm building a partner list that provides opportunity for them to do 2 weeks wherever they want. And even if I don't have a partner list, I've got someone from the Indianapolis Colts, I've got someone from Ed Long Dairy in Chicago that builds all the cheese and milk flavors in the world. So there's a variety of different partners that we're building right now. But if there's just a special interest area that you have, I'm willing to work with you on who that contact is and building the paperwork that we need to be able to give you that experience to build that resume or your opportunities for employment afterward. So the individualization piece, I think, is unique.
All right, awesome. Well, my last of the 5 is a 2-part question. And the first part is, what would be the 3 best adjectives, descriptors, or phrases that you feel best describes your program overall?
So the first one that I wrote was devoted, and we've talked a little bit about this. We're devoted to you. We really are devoted to your success and devoted to your becoming a high quality professional. So that's number 1. Number 2, I wrote that we are flexible in terms of the individualization that you can do in the coursework and now in your DI experience to some extent. And then I wrote also that we're practical. We're cost effective. There are the GA experience or the GA opportunities for you. And just even if you do come to us as a paying student, we're cost effective for your experience.
All right, perfect. So the second half is very similar. The 3 best adjectives, descriptors, or phrases that you feel describes your ideal applicant.
So focus. Sometimes we have difficulty with students who might have too much on their plate at the time. So I would say you need to have an ability to focus on your graduate experience. I know it's difficult not to work and those sort of things, but we have to have some degree of focus there to get you through well and have you prepared. Interest in nutrition, education, and communication, obviously, because that's kind of our bailiwick. That's what we do. I would also say that you're a self-starter. In our graduate coursework, you have the opportunity to take almost everything, and hopefully by the fall, everything online. So if that's something that's interesting to you, that requires some capacity for you to be self-motivated and self-starting. And it also requires that just as an intern. And I think that's probably not necessarily unique to us, but it's definitely one of the top priorities of need in terms of a student that can be successful through the graduate coursework and the internship.
All right. So Sarah, as an intern that's about to be done, you've kind of seen it from start to almost finish. Do you have any additional adjectives or descriptors that you really feel describe you or your fellow interns?
Kind of going off of what Prof. Maulding had said, like definitely focused. You have to be organized and focused and like realize what's coming next. You have to have like your eyes set to the grindstone to make sure that like you don't miss anything. I think that would probably be a good adjective to describe this internship. Definitely self-motivated. You can't slack around with this type of internship. You're constantly going. You are working basically a job. So it's really important to stay organized. You have to stay on top of your studies as well as some of the work that comes with it, and always making sure that there's room for improvement and growth. I think those are what I would use to describe this internship.
All right, perfect. Well, I just have a couple of extra questions that I thought of as you were giving your presentation. Throughout the program, what kind of exam review do you give the students and the interns, and how has that positively affected your exam pass rate?
So that was actually something that I was fighting with myself about whether or not I should include that as my program improvement. So historically, we have encouraged them to, use the standard national opportunities that are available, GNIN, RD Uniflash, those sort of resources that A&D and others offer. But as of just this month, actually, we are incorporating in the RD or in the DI experience, a subscription to the A&D software, Eat Right Prep. Is that the right name? I was blanking there for a second. So that will be a component of the last 3 months of their DI experience, is to matriculate through some of the material through Eat Right Prep. And I will be facilitating that, in addition to building some study groups that they'll be accountable to participate in to get them started. Because as you know, Erin, nationally test scores have been declining. And so we're trying to do our best to put some effort in that to assist students moving forward.
All right. So I'm sure this time last year or March of last year, you probably had to make some very last minute quick decisions with COVID changes. So thinking about going forward, is there any change that you made that you actually like and you want to keep as part of the program?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. One of the things that we have been wrestling with just overall is our availability online. And while there's historically been some of our coursework online, obviously when COVID happened, everything was online for at least a while. And so we've heard from students that they appreciated that flexibility, that we all know if you've been in an online scenario, there comes challenges in terms of your ability to not get behind, because it's basically on you to keep moving forward. So we're contemplating how to do that best in terms of providing that degree of flexibility as a permanent feature of our program, while still continuing to provide the support students need to excel and to complete.
All right, perfect. Well, those were all the questions that I have. So to close us out, I would love for each of you to give one last take-home message to potential applicants.
The thing that I typically tell students, hopefully I'm not going to steal this from Sarah. The thing that I typically tell students, when you enter a graduate program and you enter an internship program, unless you have to say no to any opportunity that's presented to you, try to say yes. Because you get what you put into these situations. And I know that I have students that are sometimes, well, I don't really want to do this in the evening, or well, I don't really want to do this in the afternoon or the weekend or whatever. But you only have one internship. You only have one opportunity to build a mentor network like no other. So just take every opportunity that you possibly can. If you can't, if you can say yes, just say yes.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with Prof. Maulding. I always like to say this to fellow applicants. If you really want to stand out while you're applying and you go to open houses and you meet the directors, I think it shows a lot if you write them a handwritten thank you note. I would definitely give that advice to people that are applying. It makes you really stand out. And then going into your internship, I guess I could just tell everyone just to be open to anything. Be ready for change. Change is inevitable. It's going to happen. I feel like a lot of dietetic students are type A, and you kind of have to cut those strings because you can't be type A in an internship. You just kind of have to go with the flow. And just know that when you go through this process, while it's going to help you for the future, it doesn't define you as a person. So don't be too hard on yourself, because you know more than what you think you do, and just staying true to yourself and keep staying positive through all this will really help you finish the internship and get that degree that you want.
All right. And thank you for mentioning the thank you notes. I think thank you notes can separate some applicants and move you on a rank list. It works. I have heard some stories of some amazing thank you notes. So thank you for mentioning that. All right. So thank you again for joining me for this episode. And for those at home that are interested in getting some more information about the program at Eastern Illinois, I've provided the program link in the description below this video. And as always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss an episode with another awesome dietetic internship. And we'll see you next time. Yay!
Thank you.